Mindy, at this point, I think it'd be interesting to hear what you do during a fast. What does that look like for you?
Yeah, so I'm my mind works the best in the morning. So I'm a get up early, get as much accomplished before noon kind of gal. And so I find food slows me down. And so I like to stay in that fasted state largely in the morning, and then I eat my dinner I try to get it done around the sunset. And we can talk about why I time dinner according to light in a moment if you want. So I do like to drink different things in my fasted window. And coffee, I do coffee. I've been doing less of it. And largely just to see how it reacts to my hormones and see if there's any shift I can see in my hormones. I've been throwing in some mushroom coffee lately, mixing it in with my clean coffee. And I really like that. I'll throw some raw cream and a little MCT oil into a mug that's got mushroom coffee, a little splash of clean coffee, and some hot water and MCT oil. And that is most of the time, that is my morning routine. And then about 10, I'll reach for a glass, like I have it here. I've got a glass of aminos. So I'll put some powdered aminos in a glass of water. And aminos are great for everything, hormones, neurotransmitters. And I find that it helps me stay in a fasted state longer. And then about noon, and sometimes I'll throw some exogenous ketones in if I'm wanting to supercharge my brain. And then around noon, I decide, am I going to break my fast or not? And there are three things I recommend people break their fast with. And one of them is fat. I can go into a big cup of bone broth. I could do the fasted snack routine. And sometimes that'll carry me all the way till 4:00 when I'll dive into a bigger meal. Other times I'll break my fast with protein. If I just finished working out and I want to really power up my muscles, then I will break my fast with protein. So that's kind of like a morning. I'm always drinking something, maybe hacking something with a supplement like aminos, and it really seems to work for me.
Let's come to the daylight piece then. You mentioned timing your dinner with daylight. What time do you eat and why do you do it that way?
Okay, so here's what I think is a really big thing everybody should know. When the sun goes down, melatonin goes up. We know this. But when melatonin goes up, you become more insulin resistant. So the sooner you can eat a meal or before sunset or around sunset, before melatonin makes her debut, you are going to process from an insulin sensitivity level. You're going to process that meal much more effectively. So I try to get that meal in around sunset. Now it's, where it is by me right now, it's wintertime. It's getting dark around 6:00. So I'm working to get my meal in around 5. And it's purely from that insulin sensitivity standpoint. Now, I want to point out, if you are listening to this, I really want to say that I've worked with a lot of families where they're like, well, I don't come home from soccer practice with the kids until 8:00 at night. The whole goal of fasting is to make it fit your lifestyle. So if you hear that and you're like, there's no way I can finish eating dinner by 5, 6:00, then just build your fasting lifestyle around what works best for you.
And when you talked about breaking your fast, I think you mentioned having fat. What are some of the other options for people that have been pushing it, even a typical intermittent fast, or when they start pushing it longer? What are your recommendations for safely breaking that?
Well, if you go longer than if you go to 3 days, even if you go to 2 days of fasting, you want to really be methodical about how you break it. And I have a 4-step approach to breaking a fast that I recommend works really well. And it starts with doing some bone broth. I think bone broth on the longer fast is amazing to break your fast with because it has glycine in it and it'll really repair any leaky gut situation. So I have people start with bone broth. If you're a vegetarian, you can do like a vegetable broth. Then if you're feeling good at that point, you can move into some prebiotic or probiotic foods. One of my favorite is I'll do a combo of like avocado with some sauerkraut on it, and then throw a little bit of hemp seeds and maybe some chia seeds on it to get that prebiotic piece in there. So you really want to think about your microbes next. Then I'll have people test it with steamed vegetables, and if all is well after that, you can go into meat. So that's for the longer fast. For the shorter fast, again, we're back at like, what is it that you're trying to do? I'm a big fan these days of people breaking the shorter fast with protein. And let me tell you why. When we stimulate autophagy, we turn off something called mTOR. And mTOR is the growth part of our body, and it's what grows muscles. And muscles, I am 1,000% behind this idea that muscle is your organ of longevity. You also have to remember that muscles, the more muscle you have, the more insulin receptor sites you have. So you're going to be able to take in glucose in a deeper way if you have more insulin openings, more of these gates within the muscle. But here's the trick. To stimulate mTOR, you got to get at least 30 grams of protein at that first meal. So it triggers an amino acid receptor. It stimulates mTOR in a positive way. So I'm a big fan of protein. In the book, I map out 3 different things, but I would say right now protein's my favorite for the shorter fast. For the longer fast, definitely follow that protocol that I gave.
You mentioned 30 grams of protein. Just to give us a ballpark idea, what would that look like?
Well, eggs are some of my favorite. Eggs have so much in them, but you would have to do about 6 eggs to get 30 grams of protein. So if, I know this is a podcast, so it's hard to see, but you're looking at about I think recently I saw it was like a 6 or 7 ounce steak. That, you look at whatever, if you're eating chicken, you're eating steak, just Google how many ounces is 30 grams, but you're looking at about a 7-ounce steak.
If you enjoyed that clip, press here for the full episode. I'll see you over there.
So if you want to lose weight, I really feel like the first thing we've got to look at is when you eat, not what you eat. Coffee may really help one person elongate their fast, and it may actually break the fast.